In this series, we go over good strings. And this is Good Strings Volume 2 for Lars. First one is linked in the right corner. Lars Alexanderson. He is a rebel, but he is also a military man. And when that military precision is applied to his opponent, he is quite the soldier indeed, especially since he is known for being short-tempered. Let's see what that looks like. And begin. We're going to start with down forward 1, called Alert L in Tekken 6. It has fallen into the unlisted universal tool category in Tekken 7. This decent range 13 frame mid is plus 5 on hit and only minus freaking 1 on block. It also has some nice crush properties in there against high attacks. Now when something is between minus 1 to 5 frames, which might be pushing it, but minus in those parameters, I do recommend looking to sidestep a return attack. The more linear, the better, to leave your enemy open to attack. However, this mid check is a very good way to do some recon on your opponent. At a 13 frame startup, you're safe from most launchers being able to beat it out. And moreover, being only minus 1 on block, down forward 1 is a bait for Delta Slicer, a move covered in Good Strings Volume 1. If your opponent hesitates to press after blocking Alert L just for a moment and then moves to engage, no sidestep needed. Delta will score you its complete counter hit properties. Down forward 1 is minus 1 on block. We've established this, so in repetition, there is no fear of being hop kicked. But remember, it is minus. Don't just throw out buttons after every time as if it's still your turn. Lots of button mashers out there that will hit you up for this. Make sure to use this as a check first and foremost. And for those wondering, the Fighting Game Glossary, great site by the way, defines a check as follows. A low risk, fast attack you'll do, usually in close range situations, to try and interrupt the opponent if they're insisting on playing very aggressively. If your frame advantage is slightly above or around neutral, or you expect they'll do some fast movement option like a dash or roll, you might throw out a quick jab or two to test the waters. You probably won't get a combo or big damage out of this, but the mere act of attacking tells your opponent not to overstep their bounds. You're just checking that they understand you want to assert your position. Check can be used as a noun and a verb, like nice check on that dash, or they keep checking me after blocking my strength. You might also hear a pretty good poke called a check from time to time. Couldn't have written it better myself. Also, watch your spacing when throwing this out. You can be whiff punished just as much as anyone else. And be aware of characters who can parry and or opponents using backsway attacks. Another type of check to your opponent, a knowledge check of how well do they know Lars and how much of him do they anticipate, is in this move. Legionnaire Spin, 1-4. A high-low string in the Lars move list is quite rare. In fact, this string, Legionnaire Spin, is the only one, plus 1 on hit and minus 12 on block. This is not a high-low string that your opponent blocking the high can jump over or duck and launch before eating the low. This adds some worth to the move, as Lars can use all the low help he can get to open up his opponent. Here's a comparative statement. For Brian Fury, that low would be Hatchet Kick to open up his opponents, which leaves the Cyborg plus 5 on hit, mini launcher on counter hit. For Lars, either with Legionnaires, high-low, or our combo, low-high, he is plus 1. And if he gets Legionnaires or Arc combo on counter hit, he is plus 1. But hey, we got what we got. This game has been out for some years now, and people know about this boy Lars. Throw out this whole string every time, and you will find yourself being parried all the time. As mentioned before, Lars getting his opponent to duck can be a task. Arc Combination, featured in Volume 1, is one of the best ways. Legionnaire Spin is another. Use this out in space here and there to keep your opponent on their toes, and as a round ender every once in a while to keep them guessing. If you have your opponent in a corner and you're harassing them with a mix between one jab and down forward one, completing this string, that +1 frame is enough to keep relatively safe as you keep the checks and pokes going. However, Lars may be the king of fake pressure. You can go into Delta Slicer after Legionnaire's hits, but a dig jab can break Lars' momentum or a high crushing move. You might think to go into down forward one or alert L if we're name calling, but of course you don't actually have the frames for alert L, just the 10 frame jab. You're not +3 and can option select, just +1. You still have an advantage, however slight. Keep this in mind when applying this quasi-pseudo mixing, and be especially mindful of the Delta Slicer string here, which wall splats. The second hit is a mid, which can cause confusion and catch your opponent off guard if they preemptively duck, making your opponent feel like they have to guess between if you'll go into Legionnaires or Delta. And with only a slither of life left, they better make the right move, or else. Up next, we'll talk about the new move on the block, or rather, metabolically enhanced move, Windlight. Back 1+2, buffed in the 5.0 patch. Mid-mid, +6 on hit, -11 on block. It's a homing move, and the first slash attack launches on counter hit. This move also wall splats. Some detractors of this move may note the frames, slow at 21 frames till impact. What they're overlooking is that it's the high level of evasion of crush properties that gives this move its value. Keep that in mind. You can actually use this in conjunction with Legionnaire Spin and down forward one against opponents who will not stop pressing buttons. Even if down forward one is blocked, it's not unviable, if that's a word, to go for Windlighter after. Of course, Lars gets low and avoids high attacks. He can actually go underneath a mid or two as well. This is most certainly a great risk reward to catch sidesteppers and someone who thinks they are safe throwing out any sort of highs, only to be counter hit. At -11 on block, there isn't too much risk here. Save, keep in mind when up against those who can parry, and I wouldn't chance this many times against the Mishimas or characters with a great 10 frame punish. Let's talk about two moves that do the same thing but in different ways. Arc Blast, forward 1+2, 15 frame mid, launcher. And Flashing Strike, down forward 2-1, 16 frame mid-mid string, also a launcher. We'll go right into when to use these. An opponent whiffs an attack right in your face, or dare they do a move that's -15 on block. You can also catch people just throwing out attacks, and your attack, in this case, Arc Blast, gets past the finish line first. No matter which, they all gotta eat the Arc Blast. You can aid your opponent into giving themselves up after they block certain attacks by setting them up for their own whiff. Down forward one comes back around here, or throwing out the first 2 hits of Delta Slicer, or Lightning Assault, or even Magnetic Knee. All of these moves safe on block. You then backdash just a bit. Your opponent goes to take their turn, but what turn? Because they've just been struck by Arc Blast. Arc Blast is also a good way to get into sidestepping if you haven't already, or simply a good way to implement it with Lars. Throw out a 1 jab, plus on block, or down forward 1, -1 on block, sidestep a returning button, and Arc Blast. Flashing Strike is another Lars move that can sneak underneath stuff. 16 frames may be a little scary implementing it from a neutral position, but this move can be used just like Arc Blast to punish a whiffing attack. Its reach, however, is longer, and it too can be used as a good attack after a sidestep, but against moves with heavier frames coming from your opponent. You notice they like to throw out a powerful punch or a strong attack when taking their turn. Sidestepping into Flashing Strike works well. Also, unlike Arc Blast, the first hit is safe. Down forward 1, blocked into backdash, and Arc Blast. Flashing Strike can be used much the same, only you can backdash further and reach out longer, and use this move especially against most members of the parry posse. If your first instinct is to use Magnetic Knee, start training yourself to replace it with Flashing Strike. The elbow is strong. Arc Blast is -13 on block, and its range can be a bit tricky to get used to. Lars is right there, but not quite. But -13 is better than whiffing altogether, because that can get you launched. And Arc Blast is steppable left and right. And the first hit of Flashing Strike is -8 on block, but the second hit is -14. Its reach is better than Arc Blast. Though it doesn't have the range of a launcher like Lightning Screw, it won't get you murdered if it's blocked like Lightning Screw. Unless you're careless and it's up against the likes of Lars himself and characters like Brian, so be mindful of that. The first hit of Flashing Strike does not track well to an opponent stepping to their left shoulder, but the second attack will follow them. Flashing Strike does track well to an opponent who steps to their right shoulder much better. Up next is Blue Bolt. Forward back 2-1. The forward back input certainly can add to when the move actually starts. The first hit is neutral on hit, second punch launches, both attacks are new. And now this. This move is what the caveat portion of the good string videos are meant for. I see this move in ranked a lot. Some videos I make, people who play the character and are bona fide masters will chime in. You Omegas out there may very well use this move in a particular way, but some years into Tekken 7 now, I still see this move by far in ranked used as an ill-advised fishing rod. Just throwing it out there, seeing if you'll catch something. This thing though covers distance, is -18 on block. Launch City. If you don't see your opponent whiffing big frame buttons from a distance, please do yourself a favor and don't just throw this out as a Hail Mary just because. I know the mind game here is that Lars' first attack whiffs, your opponent may be enticed to press, only to be hit by the second attack. It may work, but you're throwing out that Hail Mary on first down. It's like paying for tender gold. There's no reason for you to be putting yourself out there like that. Have some respect for yourself and your opponent, and move with purpose. This move included. I'd advise instead, when it first comes to using this attack, be aware of your opponent's frames that hand you this move over on a silver platter. -14 stuff. It can change in entirety what your opponent is willing to risk and wager in a match. Cause boom, they know. Okay, I got the gloves, I got the burner, but I can't get away with murder. Lars is block punishment and combo damage. Right here, you can experience them both, concurrently, at the same time. Keep this in mind when playing Lars. Also, That first attack is steppable left and right, but the second hit tracks well to both sides. The last move we will cover today is Red Sprite. Forward, 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 3. But I'm not talking about using it from while running distance away, but rather right up in your opponent's face. You're going to want to master this attack in this way. The input may be daunting at first. How I learned to get this move down is tell myself in my head, I'm doing a quick dash, forward, forward, then pressing forward and button right after. This is actual, real pressure Lars can implement, though it's always nice to hit your opponent. I'm talking in particular about a blocking opponent. Brian has a move like this. Sidestep elbow, forward 1+2. A high that's +8 on block. Much easier to do. Red Sprite, unlike that move, is a mid, so there is no ducking this. A good exercise to start getting this move underneath your belt is to throw out one jab in, let's say, practice mode, and then input while running 3 right after. It will take time, but if you're patient with yourself, you will get it. I promise. Being a while running move, of course, this is a linear attack, steppable left and right, and you may very well get a 4-4-3 instead sometimes, but hey, it's still safe at -8 on block, so not so bad. You may also get a dynamic entry input too. That's when you reset, breathe, stop pressing buttons for a sec, and then practice some more. Against patient opponents, ones that kind of just stand there, waiting for their perfect moments, or are simply playing defensively minded. I know it may be rare to come across, but this attack really puts your opponent on their back heels, forcing them to make defensive decisions as opposed to it being an option they may select. +8 on block. Will Lars go into Arc Combo, or Legionnaire Spin, or double tap? Will he grab? Again, real actual pressure without Lars going into a stance to get it. Fast implementation, up close and personal. That's how you use this move. Going back to the beginning like Lord of the Rings, or is that The Hobbit? There and back again. One more thing about down for 1 real quick that I forgot to mention before. This move can be stepped to your opponent's right shoulder, but has pretty good tracking to their left. So keep that in mind as well. A few tactical pokes, a few strings to take big advantage over opponents' slight missteps, military tactics, and precision. Playing with purpose as your opponent plays the game of war recklessly. Hopefully, now you have a better understanding to make Lars a soldier of fortune. And who knows, maybe one day, he'll be crowned king of the Iron Fist. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, a good string is like a good song. No matter how many times you repeat it, it's just as good as it was the first time.